news and notes to the coaches and players for America's team, let us go inside the Stars on 105.3 The Fan.
Jerry Jones making some headlines yesterday after he joined us here on the program, as he does every Tuesday at 8:30. He will be on the KNC Masterpiece Friday at 10:30. Good morning, Metroplex. And shout out to the 6 a.m. club. Hopefully you won that Green Bay Packer suite ticket giveaway package, SUITE, to see the return of Micah Parsons on Sunday night. You'll hear it right here on 105.3 The Fan. But yesterday, Bobby, a lot of people wanted your thoughts on the release of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, surprisingly cut in Houston. The Texans traded their 2022 first-round pick, Kenyon Green, to the Eagles for CJG in March. He had 6 interceptions in 2024 for Filthy. Has struggled to pick up D'Amico's defensive scheme this year. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, could he be better than Donovan Wilson or whatever the Cowboys are throwing out?
No, probably not. I guess anything could happen. I guess he could always have a change of heart. But no, I would kind of think that's unlikely. This was over at ESPN. The Texans beat writer had been reporting on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson recently. And he said each of the Texans' 3 losses have been by a touchdown or less. At minimum, according to team sources, Gardner-Johnson has allowed the 3 big plays in those games that have contributed to the opposing offense scoring touchdowns, adding that Gardner-Johnson has struggled to consistently guard the correct opposing player when required to, quote, match coverage based on the Texans' defensive call and the routes run by the offense. That sounds very similar to a lot of the problems the Cowboys have right now, so I don't know if you want to do that at safety. But the other thing that you got to remember, he's one of these guys who rotates teams every year because he is a pain in the ass, really bad. So he was a 30 visit for the Cowboys when he was coming out of school years ago. And I remember the Cowboys have to, like they basically have their media team interview people, interview those players and just get interviews so that if they draft them, they can go, oh, look, we got some audio from when they were here, and you just immediately got some content you can spit out. And I remember somebody with the team telling me, they're like, that is the rudest individual we've ever had sit in for those interviews. Just flat out rude for no reason. Was just rude and disrespectful to everybody around him.
It could have been an Ask Reddit yesterday.
And that's why he fell to the 5th round. He was considered a 2nd-round player, and he ended up getting drafted in the 5th because every team felt like, you are kind of a D. What is your problem?
Man, the people that are rude in a job interview, I don't know, man. Maybe that's just me.
You're extra stupid.
Yeah. Well, I am personally, I'm extra stupid, but even I'm smart enough not to do this.
Yeah.
You're setting a tone, right?
Unless
you're trying to say, I'm so good, I'm better than your organization, that's why you should pick me. So that's Shador. What he's trying to do. Yeah, exactly. Just like Shador. But no, this is if you're trying to set a culture here, not the guy. If you're trying to stop the passing game, probably not the guy either right now.
He's got a 63 PFF grade. Donovan Wilson has a 53. But what?
This is a fantastic example of why PFF is bad. No offense, this is not my normal dump it on them.
No offense.
They don't know responsibility.
Yep.
So the Texans are telling you he's been awful and he's not doing his job, and they're probably assigning things to somebody else and saying, well, it's really that guy's problem. CJ did his job here. It's no, he didn't. He was supposed to match. Eberflus's scheme is not going to be as complex.
Yeah.
He would probably be able to play more effectively in it. I just don't know that you want to roll the dice on, let's see that when the Cowboys are the team that they are right now, where you don't feel like you're missing a Super Bowl if you don't get a safety.
So let's get football nerdy for a second. This article that I saw talked about Gardner-Johnson struggling to consistently guard the correct opposing player when required to match coverage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're talking about passing along defenders and everything. I think it was Doug Farrar yesterday who did a video on Eberflus's defense, and he said, Matt Eberflus is doing something that NFL teams years ago trashed and threw in the dumpster, justifiably so. He still has guys accounting for an area of the field in their zone scheme versus the zone scheme that's still kind of that man scheme. And I'll never forget the Vic Fangio game, right? We were all sitting here talking about what is this new revolutionary defense that Vic Fangio is putting on the Dallas Cowboys. It looks like zone, but it's really man. It turns into man. Matt Eberflus's system, according to this guy, Doug Farrar, Bobby, you can speak on it, sets up a zone, but you're still accounting for a man versus an area, and Eberflus is still area-based.
Yeah, and so man match or match coverage, however you want to call it, the idea is it's zone, and then as the play is going on, depending on what happens, it can change into man coverage. And so it can be a complex thing for guys to pick up. You got to be...
Yeah, this team can't even cover the areas of the zone.
I've got to... There's an example...
This team can't even identify thirds of the field to stand in.
There's an example of this. There was the throw to Schoonmaker in week 1 against Philadelphia where everybody was like, Dak threw it into double coverage was the wrong read. He should have thrown it here. And there were all these different places where they were saying he should have thrown the ball. That on that specific play, the Eagles were in a coverage there called cover 3 sight, which is it's traditional cover 3, which is you get the 3 deep defenders. But the free safety is supposed to watch the running back. The free safety and the will linebacker are supposed to watch the running back to see, does he stay in for pass protection? Does he run to the flat? Does he run vertical? And as they're watching that, depending on what he does, their responsibility changes. So, like, for instance, if he goes to the flat, all right, the linebacker's supposed to take that. The safety's supposed to stay in his zone. If he's going seam, well, all right, the safety's now supposed to take that route. So it's a lot of reacting and adjusting on the fly. And if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is not super sharp in that area, then, yeah, you're going to lead to a bunch of... It's going to look like the Kaiir Elam stuff, where Elam thinks they're in one defense and they're in another, where Gardner-Johnson just thinks, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. It's like, no, your responsibility changed and you didn't adjust to it.
So that is a Bobby Belt no on CJGJ. I always get the letters confused. The pain in the ass from Philly and Houston. Micah Parsons did an interview with the Associated Press, and they asked him, how would it feel to finally register a sack on your old good friend, Dak Prescott?
You know, it's gonna be painful. You know what I mean? Dak's my guy. You know, he was always like a good mentor for me. But you know what it is. I always told him if I ever faced him that, you know, it'll be a great matchup. So I'm excited to see what Sunday brings itself.
I don't think he really thinks it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
I don't at all. I think he's
maybe for Dak.
Look, he's given his answers. I don't know. I don't think necessarily that they were like super close, Dak and Micah. And so
Dak on the leadership council, as I would imagine.
Yeah. He's got a captain's patch.
Yeah.
So,
well, I had someone behind the scenes, little late to the party, but texted me yesterday saying I heard that everybody on the leadership council gave the okay for the Micah deal. That's what someone told me. It was not. Don't out Kyle Yeomans as my source.
No, Kyle Yeomans was on the leadership council.
It was unanimous.
Yes, it was unanimous.
Apparently, I know everybody rolls their eyes at that. It really was from everything I could tell. That everybody who was consulted on it was like, at the very least, said, do what you got to do.
I don't know, man. I mean, he said right there that Dak was a mentor. So,
he called DeMarcus Lawrence a mentor, too.
That's he says it'd be painful.
Well, we got here, of course, because of the ugly negotiation, the way Jerry and all sides went about it. Todd Archer dove into it yesterday.
Yeah, Todd Archer and Dan Graziano and a couple other of their writers in Green Bay at ESPN had contributed to this report, too, which they were just talking about in general, the Cowboys process for negotiating contracts and wanting to deal directly with agents. And there were some interesting notes in here. They write, there's nothing in the collective bargaining agreement that explicitly prevents the discussions, although several agents said it is not a good look to circumvent them and go to the player who might not know all the details that could end up costing the player money. While the agents work for the players, they are also protecting their own interests by making sure they're involved in all parts of the negotiation. One agent who has experience doing deals with the Cowboys said, we have, not exaggerating, probably 30 categories we use to evaluate a deal. Whether it's new money, old money, guarantee structure, whatever, that's too many moving parts, and it takes more than a handshake. They talk about how in December, Parsons said, Jerry's my guy. In April, Jerry Jones said Parsons was one of 3 people who have his cell phone number. Very close, yet 4 months later, he gets traded away after that contentious meeting and the fallout that came from that. But some of the stuff they write in here about how Jerry has dealt with players directly before is really fascinating. They say over the years, the Joneses have worked deals to varying degrees with many players: Romo, Witten, Ware, Zach Martin. The minute details are then worked out by the agent effectively Executive Vice President Stephen Jones with help of Adam Pacifica, their salary cap guy. But the Cowboys don't force it on a player. So Stephen has said if somebody wants an agent to get involved, we let the agent get involved, and we step back. I guess they said just not in the instance of Micah Parsons is one of them. But the note in here that was really interesting to me was the way Dak's negotiation went down. That they had talked about that when Dak was going through his negotiation, he told them, hey, deal with my agent, and that's all we're going to do. Well, he ended up having dinner with Stephen Jones, agreed to it during training camp while his contract negotiations were ongoing, in part because former and older Cowboys such as Jason Witten and Zach Martin told him it was a necessary part of the process of trying to get a deal done. This is a quote from one agent. You have to play the game. They want to feel the love, the connectivity with the player, but you've got to be willing to give pushback. You've got to be willing to say, I can't get into the numbers. That's for my agent to talk about. And I think that's consistently the thing that we've all assumed happened with Micah, is that Micah, if he was just sitting down to have dinner or whatever else, might have gotten pulled in too far to the conversation. That then it was a barrier that was crossed. And if the Cowboys really do want to feel the love and they want to feel that connection of like, look, we'll get through the negotiation, but you gotta woo me a little bit. You gotta hold my hand and you gotta take me to dinner and you gotta make me feel pretty. Like if you're doing those things and they didn't feel it for Micah, you could see how it can kind of go sour with those sort of things.
Jerry Jones spoke about facing Micah Parsons a lot with us yesterday and in this clip.
Well, again, I have all the respect in the world for him, and we know him well. And so you can bet that we'll be preparing for what he brings to the table. And we'll be trying to come up with some antidotes for it, too.
This whole thing is hilarious that it was never personal. We played all the audio.
It's just business, Sonny.
We were there at training camp. We heard all the digs, all the slights. You taking it way over the line, Jerry, compared to how you treated CeeDee Lamb, Zeke.
Well, the cheers
Dak.
were louder.
I'll
The
get
cheers were
somebody
louder
else
for
to ask
CD.
these questions.
The cheers were louder was to me.
Still the funniest
That was
lie.
the pettiest.
It was like a faint whisper compared to the cheers.
There are two things of this whole thing that stood out to me the most. One is that comment. The other one is, I find it really odd that like 3 players have his cell phone number.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, you should have your boss's number. That's what a concept.
Agreed.
I don't know.
I have no idea how common that
I think
is.
a lot of fans would say that they think it was ridiculous if every player had access to Jerry like that. You should have like
The
a
GM.
chain of command, though. Like you have your head coach, and you're like, it shouldn't just jump up like that.
No.
It's the
If
boss
you're the
boss.
GM.
He's the boss's boss.
Yeah, but those same people would also say he's not really the GM. They would say he's really the owner and he's just meddling.